There was a time when the British darts organisation known as BDO stood at the very centre of the sport, respected, historic, and home to some of the greatest moments in darts history. Its World Masters tournament was the oldest major, a pillar of tradition. But in 2019, that legacy unravelled. A series of rule changes, player boycotts, and chaotic mismanagement turned the once revered event into a disaster. What was meant to be another chapter in darts history became the breaking point. This is the story of the 2019 World Masters, the day the BDO fell apart and an era quietly came to an end. Founded in 1973, the British darts organisation, known simply as the BDO, quickly rose to prominence as the heart of professional darts. For decades, it served as the governing body for the sport in Britain, setting the standards, organising events, and elevating the game to global audiences. Its influence stretched far beyond the Oki, building stars and setting benchmarks. Among its crown jewels was the World Masters. This wasn't just a tournament, it was the oldest established major in the sport, and second only to the World Championship in prestige. Winning it meant instant credibility. It was where rising stars made their names and legends cemented their legacies. The stage was grand, the history richer with every year. But over time, the emergence of the Professional Darts Corporation, PDC, created a new frontier. With televised events, bigger prize pools, and a fresh appeal, the PDC began drawing away the very talent that once defined the BDO. Still, the BDO held on, leaning on its history and loyal base. Yet the cracks ran deeper than competition alone. What ultimately damaged the BDO's foundation didn't come from outside, it came from within. And it all came to a head in 2019 at a tournament that was supposed to honour tradition, but ended up unravelling it. Before the 2019 World Masters even kicked off, the storm clouds had gathered. Changes to the format shocked and alienated many of the sport's top players. Unlike in past years, where the top 16 men were seeded directly into the TV finals, every single player was now forced to start from the open floor stages. No exemptions or advantages. As if that weren't enough, players also had to pay a £20 entry fee, an unusual move for a major tournament of this scale. The backlash was swift. A petition opposing the removal of seedings and the complex new scheduling system gained traction. Behind the scenes, tension mounted. Then came the exodus. Some of the BDO's biggest names made the decision to withdraw completely. Among them were two-time Lakeside semi-finalist Mike McGowan, World Trophy quarter-finalist Daniel Day, world number 6 Martin Clearmacher, number 15 Gary Robson, and seasoned veterans like Tony O'Shea and Ross Montgomery. Over 10 top-ranked players stayed away entirely. Not only was their absence symbolic, it was also a warning sign that the structure was failing, and the rules weren't the only thing that stirred controversy. The execution on the ground would take the chaos to a whole new level. Instead of taking place in a single unified venue like in previous years, the 2019 World Masters began at Gray's Civic Hall before shifting mid-event to the Circus Tavern. The setup was disjointed, confusing, and poorly communicated. What should have been a seamless event felt stitched together on the fly. Conditions inside only made matters worse. With over 200 players participating, only 32 boards were available. Warm-up areas were scarce, leaving many competitors scrambling to prepare in cramped spaces or waiting endlessly for a board to open up. For a tournament with such history and weight of the World Masters, the infrastructure felt completely out of place. And just as players were trying to settle in, a new wave of problems emerged. The 2019 World Masters descended further into chaos when the player draw went live online. What was meant to be a straightforward bracket revealed a surreal list of errors. Names appeared of players who weren't even present. Some competitors were listed twice, while others were nowhere to be found. Among the confusion, players noticed something even more bizarre. Up to 10 entries were believed to be entirely fabricated. The format itself added to the disarray. Matches were initially announced as best of 7 legs, but this was quickly walked back after criticism from players. The actual structure was supposed to be sets, not legs, and the mistake only deepened doubts about the tournament's organization. In response, Tournament organizer Des Jacklin issued a public apology, but the delivery lacked clarity and confidence. To make up for the mess, he offered players free weekend tickets, but that did little to address the core issue: the integrity of the event. In an unusual move for a tournament of this stature, he also requested volunteers to act as matchmarkers. "If you see a spare board, please get up and mark," he announced. For professionals who had traveled from around the world, the request was as baffling as it was frustrating. Communication breakdowns hit international players especially hard. Many flew in from Europe, North America, and Asia, some traveling more than 10 hours, only to discover they had missed the new registration process. The BDO had failed to notify them properly about changes to how and when they needed to sign in. To patch the growing holes in the draw, officials attempted to fill in for no-shows with players who were physically present but unregistered. This patchwork solution was flawed. The numbers didn't line up. There simply weren't enough substitutes on hand to cover the vacant slots. And with that, the fake names problem worsened. Some names had been inserted into the draw in advance as placeholders, a desperate effort to keep brackets balanced. But no one had planned for what would happen if a real player ended up matched against someone who didn't exist. Questions piled up. What's the protocol when your opponent isn't real? Do you get a bye, a walkover, or are you penalized for something beyond your control? Frustrations peaked, but the worst was yet to come. Just an hour after the first matches had started, players were blindsided again. A redraw was announced mid-tournament. The phrasing from Simon Cowles drew snickers and groans. The draw will be reflirted. What that meant exactly was unclear at first, but it soon became obvious. A full reshuffle was underway. The timing couldn't have been worse. Players who had already won matches now faced the possibility of new opponents and uncertain progression. Seeded players felt especially caught off guard. Andy Hamilton revealed that some were privately informed of the redraw in a backstage meeting before the news was made public. The perception of favoritism spread quickly. Trust in the tournament's fairness continued to unravel. Even the most loyal supporters were past the breaking point. As the 2019 World Masters kicked off, one key detail remained missing: the prize fund. Can you believe it? Players had no idea what they were competing for. No structure, no breakdown, nothing was confirmed. They were told prize details would only be shared if they reached the televised stages. For professionals, it was both disrespectful and disorienting. Behind closed doors, the BDO's legal team made a controversial move. They presented contracts to players like Danny Baggish and Ben Pratnemer, demanding exclusivity. Signing meant they'd be barred from playing in the PDC World Championship. Both players refused. In response, the BDO threatened to withhold their World Masters prize money. The tactic raised eyebrows across the darts world, players being forced to choose between opportunities and compensation. With financial uncertainty and legal pressure mounting, the cracks were no longer hidden.
Then came one of the strangest mistakes of the tournament. Brian Cathcart's name appeared in the last 30-second bracket, but there was one problem. He'd never shown up to play. Somehow, without even playing a match, he had somehow advanced through the draw. This wasn't a minor oversight. It pointed to a deeper breakdown in tournament control. Was it a clerical error? A carryover from one of the faulty lists? No one gave a clear answer. And in a year where fake names had already sparked controversy, this ghost player added another layer of embarrassment.
The televised rounds carried on. 32 players stepped up under the lights, but the damage was already done. After the 2019 World Masters chaos, the World Darts Federation quickly cut ties. The BDO was stripped of official recognition and reduced to associate status. That meant it could no longer sanction events or act as a governing body. Its influence, once dominant, vanished almost overnight. The chaos spilled into the 2020 BDO World Championship. Ticket sales were disastrous, barely 15% sold, and days before the event, prize money was slashed. The men's champion would now receive just £23,000, down from £100,000 the year before. Players were left in the dark once again. Prize money payments missed the February deadline, debts piled up, confidence vanished. Chairman Des Jacklin resigned in March, but briefly returned. It was too late. By June, the BDO's commercial arm went bankrupt, nearly £500,000 in debt. County darts organisations walked away. And by September, the BDO, once a giant in the sport, was finished. Nearly 5 decades of darts history gone. So how does a sports empire fall in just one weekend? The 2019 World Masters showed us. What began as chaos ended in collapse, trust lost, stars gone, and the BDO's legacy buried for good. Have you ever seen a downfall happen this fast? Share your thoughts and subscribe for more untold moments that shape the world of darts.